This is ecoTEC's ecoTEC roundup show from Aotearoa's first and only climate-positive certified renewable electricity provider. We only source from wind, hydro and solar, and we are the leading supplier of electricity to EVs in Aotearoa. Switch today at ecotecity.co.nz. Welcome back to another roundup of news from the world of clean cars and green energy. Thanks for joining me. We start today's show with some pretty unpleasant news from the US that could affect everyone globally. News of a potential slowdown in the North American shift to EVs. According to multiple news outlets this week, the Biden administration is said to be planning to ease pre-2030 fuel economy and EV requirements after significant pushback from unions, automakers, and of course, President Biden's opposing candidate in this year's presidential race. While the White House has not confirmed the plans officially, there is some nuance that's important to note in what we do know. Sources close to the White House say the end goal of getting 67% of all new cars and light-duty trucks all electric by 2032 still stands, with no change to the target of dumping fossil fuels. What has changed, however, is the speed of transition, with automakers given extra time in the next few years to ramp up, with a much more accelerated push towards 2032. I would frankly love to believe the end goal will still happen, but the hundreds of millions of dollars spent lobbying by the fossil fuel industry in just this election cycle suggests otherwise. We have long tried to decode some of the often bizarre naming conventions that automakers use for their vehicles, and if I'm honest, we rarely come up with a good reason for them. But this week, Volvo announced name changes for its XC40 Recharge and C40 Recharge as part of a rebranding of its electric vehicle and hybrid vehicle offerings. Volvo says it hopes that the rebrand will, quote, simplify choice for customers, end quote, and will see the XC40 become the EX40, while the C40 will get an extra letter and become the EC40, both dropping the Recharge suffix they currently have. This means, as of this year, we'll have the EX30, EX40, EC40, EX90 and EM90 made by Volvo as all-electric variants somewhere in the world. Interestingly, too, Volvo will also drop the Recharge suffix for its plug-in hybrids, keeping just the T6 and T8 suffix to denote power output. Volvo hasn't said if it'll send out new badges, which sister brand Polestar has done in the past. We might be seeing article after article and badly produced AI YouTube video after badly produced AI YouTube video claiming that the EV revolution is over, but sales data most definitely disagrees. This week, data published by the US Department of Energy shows that claims nobody wants to buy EVs are completely bogus, with sales data between 2021 and 2023 showing dramatic growth. What's more, it shows that for the last 2 years, monthly EV sales over each month, year over year, have set new records, with EV sales in 2023 outpacing every single month of 2022. Market share was also an interesting thing to note, with EVs actually exceeding 8% market share by registration at the tail end of last year. It throws a lot of cold water on the notion that EV sales fell last year and proves demonstrably that whoever is saying that has an ulterior motive. Regardless of the narrative surrounding EV sales last year, automakers are continuing to act as if nobody wants EVs anymore, and that's led to some pretty big price cuts across the board. The latest to offer a price drop for its vehicles is Ford, which announced price cuts for its Mustang Mach E in Canada by up to $13,000 Canadian dollars and slashed prices in the US by up to $8,100 US dollars. The entry-level Mach E Select rear-wheel drive standard range now costs under $40,000 US dollars new, with the extended range premium rear-wheel drive going for just under $46,000 US dollars. Meanwhile, the Ford F150 Lightning has also been given a price cut, with up to $12,500 off the F150 Lightning Platinum and $7,500 off the XLT extended range. Rivian posted its quarterly earnings this week, showing that while its year-end figures saw it more than double its vehicle delivery figures year over year, there's still a lot of work to be done. Finishing out 2023, Rivian delivered more than 50,000 R1T and R1S models combined, generating $1.3 billion in revenue during Q4 for a year-end revenue of $4.4 billion. But while Rivian is still generally trending in the right direction, its gross loss last year was $606 million, far smaller than the more than $1 billion gross loss from the year before, it is still feeling the pinch of production, with its gross margins down to negative 46% for the fourth quarter. As a consequence, it's announced it will cut 10% of its workforce to streamline operations. I know some naysayers will cheer at this, but remember, Rivian is ramping up production far more quickly in its life cycle than Tesla did at a similar point in its corporate life. We have had a fair few recall alerts this week, so we've opted to throw them all together in one big story, and we're going to start with the Jaguar I-Pace, which actually had 2 US recalls. The first one is very small, to address poorly fitted bus bars on the battery packs of just 2 I-Pace EVs to address what Jaguar says is, quote, abnormal resistance in the battery pack. The second recall is to address the possibility of incorrectly repaired battery energy control modules in all model years of I-Pace that were subjected to a prior recall. According to Jaguar, some of the repairs may not have been carried out properly. Meanwhile, Lucid has recalled 189 Lucid Air sedans via an OTA update to address a potential fault in the operating system that could result in a sudden loss of power in affected cars, while Chevrolet has recalled 352 Silverado EVs to address an incorrect seatbelt bezel that could cause damage to the seatbelt during a collision. We have been calling for more affordable EVs for what feels like an age, and while some markets do now have far more accessible models on sale, we're always pleased to hear about new ones. And this week we did, when Dacia confirmed that its Spring EV, a car that's been on sale for mainland Europe for some time now, is both getting a mid-cycle refresh and a new market for sales, the UK. The refreshed Dacia Spring comes with a 48 kilowatt motor and 26.8 kilowatt hour battery pack, along with a 7 kilowatt onboard charger and 30 kilowatt DC quick charging capabilities. That might feel like it's not a lot, but with a price expected to be about £17,000 sterling, including tax, it's going to be the perfect first EV for plenty of Brits who honestly don't drive very far. I mean, I am British, and before I emigrated to the US, driving anything more than about 100 miles was considered a really long way. Sticking with new vehicles, Volkswagen officially revealed the ID.7 Tourer this week, an estate or wagon variant of the ID.7 full-size EV. Cross-shopping against the just-announced BMW i5 Tourer, the ID.7 Tourer shares the same drivetrain and battery pack as the sedan version of the ID.7 and comes with a whole host of standard-fit items, including an augmented reality heads-up display. The rear seats lie completely flat, giving a particularly cavernous rear, and there's also a pass-through for the rear seats for long things like skis. We don't have final pricing for all markets yet, but you can bet your 401k that it's unlikely to ever come to the US because, like most automakers, Volkswagen doesn't want people thinking that station wagons are cool. Let them know below if you disagree. In launching the Tesla Cybertruck, Tesla and, by association, Elon Musk, were both very keen to promote just how capable Tesla's first pickup was engineered to be. One of the features talked up a lot was the truck's ability to wade through deep water, and with California now experiencing a huge amount of rain in the last few weeks, we only knew it would be time before someone tried to see just how the Cybertruck performs in deep water. This week, we saw the Tech's Rex YouTube channel Channel decided to wade through some floodwater in a brand new Cybertruck. With the obligatory warning label still dangling from the glove box, they put the suspension to its highest setting, which requires the truck to be in off-road mode, entered wade mode, which pressurizes the battery pack to prevent water ingress, and went for it. I should note that the truck made it fine with only a few pieces of trim dislodged, but Tesla does say going off-road driving will void your warranty, so your choice. If you are in the market for a new electric car and you happen to be eyeing up a Volkswagen ID.4 or ID.5, then I have got some fantastic news for you, namely massive discounts for Kiwi buyers. Volkswagen confirmed this week that it's slashing up to 20,000 Kiwi dollars off the price of getting behind the wheel of its ID.4 SUV, with the entry-level ID.4 Pro getting cut to 59,990 Kiwi dollars. Meanwhile, its sibling, the ID.5, also gets a price cut, with the ID.5 Pro entry-level model also going to $67,490. Given that Luxon's cabinet ended all EV incentives earlier this year, this is fantastic news for anyone wanting to plug in. And here's hoping that Volkswagen keeps the price cut, which is something that it has hinted might be a possibility. Before we get to the last two stories, I do have a quick question. Are you in the market for a new EV? Because if you are, and you live in Aotearoa, you should very much check out our own buyer's guide at ecotricity.co.nz. It is packed with all of the information you need to pick a car that's right for you and includes plenty of details about available vehicles, daily life with an EV, and so much more. So follow the link below and get your journey started today. As recent years will attest, we're seeing more and more extreme weather events around the world, leaving more and more people displaced as a consequence. Rebuilding communities after a natural disaster or a climate change-caused weather event can cost a lot of money, and many ravaged communities can barely afford to rebuild, let alone think about resiliency and future planning. But this week, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA for short, in the US, announced that it will work with local governments across the nation to help fund and install efficient home appliances, heating systems, solar panels, and backup systems as part of the rebuilding efforts that can take place after every major disaster. It is a truly fantastic move that will not only ensure communities can rebuild, but rebuild in a more energy efficient and energy resilient way, which will ultimately mean they have to rely less on outside help in the future. And finally, sometimes the news stories we see crossing our collective desks are predictable, and sometimes they're just very weird indeed, and our last story fits into the latter. Way back when now convicted fraudster Trevor Milton was still in charge of Nikola Motors, the company promised to bring an all-electric pickup truck to market called the Badger. But after the company's finances started to look less and less rosy, and federal investigations began, and its potential partnership with GM fell through, the Nikola Badger was seemingly abandoned. Now, however, David Sparks, aka Heavy D Sparks from Discovery Channel show Diesel Brothers, claims that the truck is coming back to market. According to the TV celebrity, he made a deal with Trevor Milton before Milton's conviction that saw him gain ownership of all of the Badger IP, and after 3 years he says it's ready to become a reality. But as Electrek notes, however, Mr. Sparks also says Trevor Milton is innocent of the crimes he's now serving jail time for, so take from that what you will. And on that note, we are in fact done for the day. Before I go though, do make sure you've hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on the latest in EV news from this channel. And if you haven't switched yet, it is high time to switch to Aotearoa's first and only climate positive certified renewable electricity provider. It's super easy to make the switch, and if you do so, you'll help the nation wean itself off dirty energy and onto clean green power that will keep the land beautiful for generations to come. I'll be back as usual next week with another roundup show, but in the meantime, be sure to check out other great content on this channel, including from the lovely Gavin Kiwi EV Shoebridge. He's been driving all the cars right now. Those potato tests, they're top notch. I'm Nikki Gordon Bloomfield. Have an amazing rest of the week. Ka kite! See you next time.